How's it going, everyone? It's me, Vivi, and welcome back to some more Jak and Daxter. Keira, what do we know about her? We all know she's been a supportive character and love interest of Jak. In the end, okay? Ultimately, she was Jak's love interest. We know Ashlyn and Jak had a little flirty thing going on, but in the end, nothing really happened. Jak and Keira, they wound up together. As for other things, where did she originate from? It's a very straightforward answer. It never seemed complicated. There's a time loop. Okay, apart from the time travel thing, the thing about Keira is pretty simple, in terms of, you know, her origin. Location, at least. There's a time loop in Jak and Daxter, where old Samos and Jak from Sandover travel to the future. A future where Samos was born in, and Jak. They meet their younger selves, and in the end, their younger selves get sent to Sandover by their older selves to restart the loop. What helps us prove this is Samos's line, so this is how it happened.
What are those things?
So this is how it happened.
This is how his younger self realized how his older self made it to the future. And don't forget the other line, Jak, find yourself.
Find yourself, Jak!
You know, find your younger self. Keira existed in the past, but did not originate from the future. Young Samos goes back to Sandover and eventually gets a daughter, names her Keira. But there's one little or big mystery left behind. Who was her mother? Evidently, a mother for Keira did exist, as Samos himself brings up her mother in Jak X.
You're not going to race.
Daddy, I'm racing, and that's final.
Just like her mother.
Simply Naughty Dog put in that line to make us scratch our heads. Like, they left this question, which is open to, you know, different interpretation, imagination, or whatnot. Honestly, if anything, this could have been just another case of, oh, you know, their parents are never brought up, so something happened to them, they probably died from something, even if the word mother was brought up. But I decided to make it a bit more interesting and dive deeper. But really, if ever the word mother or father gets brought up, you just can't help yourself to think and wonder, okay, so Samos bringing up Keira's mother, I thought, 1, she did have a mother confirmed, and 2, since Keira was born in Sandover, I believe her birth was basically soon after they came to Sandover. In Jak X, it is said she is 18 years old, 1 year younger than Jak, Jak being 19 in Jak X. If there's 1 year of a difference between these two, then it wasn't long for Samos to find someone and bring Keira to the world. With that said, let's analyze the line Samos brings up in Jak X. Let's play it one more time.
You're not going to race.
Daddy, I'm racing, and that's final.
Just like her mother.
The tone of his voice, very neutral. Just like her mother. The tone doesn't seem to point towards a fond memory, that's for sure. Like, just like her mother. You know that tone. One characteristic that wouldn't sound too far off is stubbornness, a personality trait Keira seems to be pointing at. Is it possible that the stubborn nature of her mother is what separated the family? Are we looking at death or disappearance? It's really up in the air, as I said before. But to make it interesting, if I were to choose, I'd go with the, you know, usual death scenario. There's another scene prior to this one where Samos is really concerned about her determination to start racing.
Oh no, not this again. Keira, you're not racing. It's much too dangerous.
But Daddy, I can do it! I can race better than any of those guys, you know I can!
Yes, I mean no, you can't. Well, I mean, yes you can, but that's not the point. I won't have it. A woman's place is in the garage fixing cars.
You can't protect me forever! Someday I'll show you!
Not today you won't. No racing, that's final. I can't risk losing my little girl.
I can't risk losing my little girl. Surely that's what a father would say if their daughter wanted to be part of a combat racing, which is dangerous. But the way he turns around and looks down, it's as if he was remembering something. His body is drooping. You know, body language. He's looking down, he's not looking at her. Well, 2 things out of that. 1 would be fear, obviously, and 2, sadness. Fear is very self-explanatory. Just by looking at this scene, he's scared for his daughter, you know, being part of a dangerous sport. As for sadness, well, yes, he would be sad and devastated, the thought of losing Keira. But I'm thinking sadness could also be due to him thinking back to a similar situation where his wife, if married, was also determined to do something, but Samos deemed it too dangerous and didn't want her to do so. About his comment, women belong in the garage fixing cars, that could have been due to the heat of the moment. Or it's something that's relatable to her mother. Her mother could have also been tech savvy, just like Keira. Her skill and passion with technology could have been passed on to Keira. They could have been working together. Her mother honestly could have been anything. The only likely candidate for inspiration other than her mother, when it comes to like technology, ingenuity, in the fields of tech, I'd go with the blue eco-sage from the Precursor Legacy. He was a genius mechanic according to the warrior. Didn't Samos and Keira use the blue eco-sage's journal to give our duo missions? Yep. The teleport gates take you to different hut of the sages. That's pretty straightforward. That tells us that Samos had a good relation with the other sages. But the blue eco one, that'd be my guess. You know, when it comes to inspiration. Apart from the possibility of Keira's mom also being tech savvy, what are the odds of her being an eco-sage prior? Either A, she was one of the colors before the new member, whoever it be, took over. You know, ability got passed on. Or B, she was an eco-sage. A sage different from all of the ones we've seen. What type of eco hasn't been channeled before? One which wasn't channeled, you know, before Jack did. Light eco. Now look, I know it might sound far-fetched, you know, technically to have light eco you have to harness all 4 colors in its purest form. You have to channel all of those colors, blue, red, yellow, and green. No dark eco involved. Samos could have met a woman who had the capability to channel eco, or perhaps already knew how to. Or she was stubborn, always dreamt of harnessing all types of eco. I'm gonna bring up the Lost Frontier, okay? I know it wasn't developed by Naughty Dog, it was developed by High Impact Games. A lot of people will hate me for bringing it up, perhaps. I'm fine with that. But a side note, Lost Frontier, having watched the cutscenes, I never played the game, to be honest with you. Just looking at the cutscenes, the story had potential, but felt lackluster, like empty. Lost Frontier was about the loss of worlds, a supply of eco. Like, there was potential there. Now, why am I bringing up the Lost Frontier? There's a point they made. Jack was having difficulty to use his dark eco powers due to the lack of eco in the world. Why not switch that around? In the Precursor Legacy era, the world was filled with eco. Perhaps this mysterious woman, Keira's mom, abused it. There was so much eco stored in that era that trying to harness all of it at once took a toll on her. So much that eventually it took her life. If you were to consider Lost Frontier canon, then one might say, well, dude, remember Keira being able to channel eco at the end of Lost Frontier. We can say, oh, it's something genetic, pointing towards more of the possibility of her mother being an eco-sage. You know, an ability passed down. After all, Red Eco-Sage did feel like they found a new sage, aka Keira, right? He was pointing at Keira. Well, you know, not literally point, but it seemed to be aimed at her.
Without your help and ingenuity, none of this would have been possible. Perhaps we've found another sage, now that Gaul and Maya are lost.
Regardless of the canonicity debate, Keira's mom being the light eco-sage is a possibility. If she were, that would mean it was either kept a secret, as Gaul had no idea of its existence. I mean, Gaul and Maya and Samos did have, I guess, a close relationship once, we can say? Or at least they were in contact in the past? Judging from the way Samos was talking to them in this scene, telling them, hey, dark eco can affect you, I told you so. But why would light eco, if her mother was so, be kept a secret? I mean, Samos did keep secrets, such as the knowledge of time travel, remember. He never really reacted to Daxter becoming a fuzzball. He knew it would happen, cause he saw his future self in Haven City. If not for the secret part, then perhaps Keira's mother was close to unraveling light eco. It simply took a toll on her. She was so determined to look into it, even Samos probably was trying to stop her. Hence what he told Keira, just like her mother, in a neutral tone. Ultimately, looking at how Keira is tech-savvy, her mom could have died from a vehicle crash. That could explain why Samos was all worried about the whole Jack combat racing situation. Maybe her mother handled a vehicle in the past and something happened. But yeah, as for her mother being tech-savvy and being a trait of hers, it's a possibility. In the end, there's so many possibilities and imagination one can go with. So with that, with imagination in mind, there's something else I'd like to bring up. Young Jack in Jack 2 looked to be around 2 or 3 years old at least. If Keira had 1 year age gap by the time Jack X happened, then how old was young Jack really? By the time Keira would be born in Sandover, the age gap between these two would be greater. The age gap is where questions arise, well, one question in particular. If Jack is technically supposed to be more than a year older in Jack 1 by the time she's born, that would mean Keira was an orphan, raised by Samos, adopted. If young Jack was like 2 or 3 in Jack 2, then how do we explain this 1 year age gap? So in order to explain that, people use this old common theory, her being adopted. If she wasn't adopted, and indeed was born in Sandover Village in a longer time span, then about the age gap thing, it all comes down to time travel shenanigans. We don't know if Keira and Samos wound up in Haven City at the same exact time as Jack and Daxter. It could be that Jack and Daxter wound up in the future a few years later. Thus would explain Kira's age catching up to Jack. Fans have pointed out a certain line Samos says to weigh in on this. He added 6 rings to his trunk. 1 ring could represent a year. That's what fans believed. If so, that means Samos was behind bars for 6 years? I mean, the whole ring representing a year could be a possibility, but if Samos was indeed behind bars for 6 years, I would have imagined a greater reaction from him in this scene, but 6 years, 6 rings? I'm not too sure about that one.
Oh, my little hero!
Samos, are you alright?
What took you so long? I added 6 rings to my trunk waiting for you two to get me out of here. Great yakkow horns! What happened to you, Jack?
In the end, what he said could have been metaphorical. 6 rings does not have to represent 6 years. It could represent maybe a couple of months. But I just thought of still pointing it out. Alright, so with that being said, folks, tell me what you think in the comment section below. Do you believe Keira was born shortly after they entered Sandover Village? Or do you think she was adopted? And about the whole mother thing, if she's adopted, that will mean Samos knew her mother who gave her away. Anywho, tell me what you think in the comment section below, alright? So with that being said, I've been Vivi, and thank you so much for watching.